Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Purple Door podcast, a friends rewatch pod. I'm your host, Alasdair, and I'm alongside my good friend DeeAnn. Hello again, DeeAnn.
Hello, Al. How are you doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
I am just peachy keen. Just
Awesome.
living the dream, right?
We equally so. As we mentioned before, DeeAnn and I are both in education, so we're different schools, different districts, but we both live very similar lives in a lot of ways. So we're just making it through this time of year. But let's
Getting
see.
ready for all the big stuff that's coming up.
All the big stuff. We're getting ready for testing season and all the bits and pieces that will make spring fun. But we'll make it. We always make it.
We always do.
Well, a nice
And
distraction from
sometimes
work.
with a snow day or two, right?
Exactly. Maybe we'll get. I think it's going to be awfully cold next week, but no snow. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Well,
and that's no fun. It's whenever it's cold like that and it's not snowing, like, what's the point?
see, I'm
Doesn't
a big fan that I could do the cold and not the heat.
See,
So
no,
yeah.
and I am the opposite. If it's not killing all the mosquitoes and all of
Right.
that stuff in the winter, I am not
Right.
interested. I am not
Yeah.
interested. And very seldom is it ever cold enough for long enough to make that big of a difference with the bugs.
Yeah. We've
So
got
I would be
friends.
fine with 105 all
That
year
sounds
round.
that's horrific. We've got a friend who just flew up to Michigan, and I think the high
Uh-oh.
was 15 Fahrenheit. That's about 10 below Celsius. We do have a couple of listeners in the UK, so it's about 10 below,
Oh.
15 Fahrenheit for the high, and it's just icy and snowy, and it looks perfect. Like I would love every bit of it.
Mm-mm. See,
But
and then it gets you cold all the way to your bones. You can't feel your toes. That's Well, I mean, more power to you, Al. That's
right,
awesome.
yeah, we're off to Kansas tomorrow, and
Oh,
it's about 15 degrees cooler up there. We're going up for the weekend. We're
that'll
going
be
up to see
nice.
Macy, our daughter. So we're just going up Friday to Sunday, but it is below freezing all the time. It snowed a couple of weeks ago and it's still on the ground. So
Wow.
so we're kind of
Well,
excited.
okay, so we had snow on the ground a
Hmm.
week ago.
Right,
A week ago today, the
that's
a
true.
little bitty butt of our snowman, so it's about the size of my elbow, is left in our front yard of
Isn't
our
that
almost
funny?
7 foot tall snowman.
It's just a little bit of remains. We never made a snowman. We should have. We missed out. We just hunkered down and put fire in the fireplace or wood in the
Oh,
fireplace and just didn't move for a couple of days. Really, it was quite nice.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I tell you
Well,
what, a nice distraction from work would be a wonderful game of Bamboozled. So if you've got
yeah, it
questions
would.
ready, I've got to be
Ooh.
honest, I ended up narrowing this down to 6 questions. So we'll see if you and I
Oh,
again have duplicates. But
uh,
uh,
okay. So you're prepared if we do, because I am not.
right, I'm prepared if we do this time. Yes.
Okay, but I will tell you that all of my questions have numbers in
I
common.
love it. And
Everything
you know
with
what?
numbers.
Only one of mine does, and it's my favorite question, and I'd be willing to bet money that you and I have that question the same. So we'll
Oh, I
see.
bet it is. I bet it is. Okay. All right.
All right,
So,
why don't you fire ahead with the first question?
all right. How many seconds does Joey wait to go over to Angela whenever she comes into the coffee house?
That is
I
not the
count
question
them
I've
out with
got.
Mississippi's.
I know it's not many, so I'm gonna go with 4.
Ooh, so close. He
Uh,
counts 2, 3
oh,
Mississippi.
now Steve Muton, who has guested on this podcast,
Yes.
is infamous when he gets questions that are to do with numbers with always guessing 3. So that I
Yeah,
should have guessed 3 in his honor. He's going to be very disappointed when he
that's
listens
like
to
the
this.
answer is always C, right?
Yes, exactly.
A, C.
Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Purple Door podcast, a friends rewatch pod. I'm your host, Alasdair, and I'm alongside my good friend DeeAnn. Hello again, DeeAnn.
Hello, Al. How are you doing?
Wonderful. How are you?
I am just peachy keen. Just
Awesome.
living the dream, right?
We equally so. As we mentioned before, DeeAnn and I are both in education, so we're different schools, different districts, but we both live very similar lives in a lot of ways. So we're just making it through this time of year. But let's
Getting ready
see.
for all the big stuff that's coming up.
All the big stuff. We're getting ready for testing season and all the bits and pieces that will make spring fun. But we'll make it. We always make it.
We always do.
Well, a nice
And
distraction from
sometimes
work.
with a snow day or two, right?
Exactly. Maybe we'll get. I think it's going to be awfully cold next week, but no snow. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
Well,
and that's no fun. It's whenever it's cold like that and it's not snowing, like, what's the point?
see, I'm
Doesn't
a big fan of. I could do the cold and not the heat.
see.
So
No,
yeah.
and I am the opposite. If it's not killing all the mosquitoes and all of that
Right.
stuff in the winter, I am not
Right.
interested. I am not
Yeah.
interested. And very seldom is it ever cold enough for long enough to make that big of a difference with the bugs.
Yeah. We've
So
got a
I would be
friend.
fine with 105 all
That
year
sounds
round.
that's horrific. We've got a friend who just flew up to Michigan, and I think the high
Uh-oh.
was 15 Fahrenheit. That's about 10 below Celsius. We do have a couple of listeners in the UK, so it's about 10 below,
Oh.
15 Fahrenheit for the high, and it's just icy and snowy, and it looks perfect. Like I would love every bit of it.
Mm-mm. See,
But
and then it gets you cold all the way to your bones. You can't feel your toes. That's well, I mean, more power to you, Al. That's
right.
awesome.
Yeah, we're off to Kansas tomorrow, and
Oh,
it's about 15 degrees cooler up there. We're going up for the weekend. We're
that'll
going
be
to see
nice.
Macy, our daughter. So we're just going up Friday to Sunday, but it is below freezing all the time. It snowed a couple of weeks ago and it's still on the ground. So
Wow.
so we're kind of
Well,
excited.
okay, so we had snow on the ground a
Mm-hmm.
week ago.
Right.
A week ago today,
That's
a
true.
little bitty butt of our snowman, so it's about the size of my elbow, is left in our front yard of
Isn't
our
that
almost
funny?
7 foot tall snowman.
So just a little bit of remains. We never made a snowman. We should have. We missed out. We just hunkered down and put fire in the fireplace and or wood in the
Oh,
fireplace and just didn't move for a couple of days. Really, it was quite nice.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But I tell you
Well,
what, a nice distraction from work would be a wonderful game of Bamboozled. So if you've got
yeah, it
questions
would.
ready, I've got to be
Ooh.
honest, I ended up narrowing this down to 6 questions. So we'll see if you and I
Oh,
again have duplicates. But
uh,
uh,
okay, so you're prepared if we do, because I am not.
right, I'm prepared if we do this time. Yes.
Okay, but I will tell you that all of my questions have numbers in
I
common.
love it. And
Everything
you know
with
what?
numbers.
Only one of mine does, and it's my favorite question, and I'd be willing to bet money that you and I have that question the same. So we'll
Oh, I
see.
bet it is. I bet it is. Okay. All right.
All right,
So,
why don't you fire ahead with the first question?
all right. How many seconds does Joey wait to go over to Angela whenever she comes into the coffee house?
That is
I
not the
count
question
them
I've
out with
got.
Mississippi's.
I know it's not many, so I'm gonna go with 4.
Ooh, so close. He
Uh,
counts 2, 3
oh,
Mississippi.
now Steve Muton, who has guested on this podcast,
Yes.
is infamous when he gets questions that are to do with numbers with always guessing 3. So that I
Yeah,
should have guessed 3 in his honor. He's going to be very disappointed when he
that's
listens
like
to
the
this.
answer is always C, right?
Yes,
A,
exactly.
B, C.
Well, sorry, listeners, we got slightly kicked out there. We're not sure what happened with the software, but yes, Steve, I should have guessed 3 in honor of you. Next time. Next time. All right, so I'll ask a question for you, DeeAnn. In, I think, the same scene, what is the subject of the magazine that Ross is reading in that opening scene? He's sitting reading a magazine, which to me was quite unusual.
That is unusual.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I have no idea. Wait, are you talking about the opening scene? Whenever he starts talking about. No.
Oh,
What?
you know what? It might be after the introduction. He's certainly sitting on the couch in Central
Oh,
Park.
that's right. That was the introduction. And then, yeah, whenever. And then Joey waits whenever she walks in.
Yeah, he's just got a
I have.
magazine.
Is it like an interior design magazine?
It is not.
What is it?
Should I tell you? It is a cycling
Yeah.
magazine. It's simply called Cycling.
How weird.
Right? Got nothing. It's completely. It doesn't track at all. I don't think for his character, but simply called Cycling with the picture of a cyclist on the front.
Huh.
Yeah, you learn
Yeah.
something every day, huh?
Well, there you go.
There you
Yes.
go. There
I
you
love
go.
that. Okay. Here's the one that if we were going to match on a question, this would be
You're
it.
thinking this is it. Okay.
I do. How many espressos do we think Chandler drank during the whole breakup of Janice?
That is the question I had. Look at you and I go. We're on the same page. This was the subject of discussion in my household because we counted the espresso cups on the table and we
Yes.
thought there was 10, but he also drank Phoebe's, which would make it 11 is what we thought.
Yes, that's
Yes.
absolutely okay. That's what I got too, because I was counting the espressos on the, and I'm like, oh, okay, 10, 10, 10. And then he goes over and he
And
takes hers and swigs it back. I
yes.
was like, oh, whoa.
That was my final question there was, yeah, and I've just scored it out. That's it. Yes. Some
Okay,
things, yeah, go ahead. Go.
I have a question. Have you
Yes.
ever drank a ridiculous amount of coffee that's made you that jittery?
Not like that. I really enjoy just black coffee. I'll have 3
Hmm.
cups most mornings. There's
3?
3, yeah. So now,
Wow.
oh, that's over the course of a couple of hours, but still.
But
Now,
still.
but still. Now, there's been times where I've ended up having like just drinking coffee, drinking, filling, and I've got the jitters,
Hmm.
but not quite like that. Um, I hear rumors about Cuban coffee. I've never tried it, but I keep hearing that stuff you can see into the future if you drink too much of it. But I haven't tried it myself. Now, what about you? Has it ever given you the shakes?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like, but not like that. Like, I
right,
feel like it would make me super hilarious though, so maybe I should try that.
right,
Maybe that's what we should do one time before. That's what we should have done tonight. We
right.
just drank a whole bunch and then start talking about Friends.
You know what? Now
I
we're getting ideas about maybe we should meet at a local coffee shop and record an episode live as we're drinking coffee.
I love this idea.
This is
This
what
is
needs
a
to happen.
great idea.
All right, listeners,
Okay.
this is going to happen soon. All right, we're in.
Yes.
Yeah, because we don't live that far from each other, so we'll make that
No.
happen.
And I can think of the best little coffee shop.
There we go.
Ah, yes.
Done,
Okay,
done,
I
listeners.
love
All
this
right,
idea. Okay.
all right. Well, I've got another question for you. This is the toughest one, I think, because it's weird and obscure, like the cycling question.
Oh.
Kate didn't like this question. We see
Uh-oh.
Ross's bedroom for possibly the only time. We might see it, but
Are you
certainly in
about
that
to ask me
apartment.
how many dinosaurs there are on the
I,
bookshelf?
I'm not because I couldn't count all of those.
I tried
Right?
to count them
You tried to,
too.
right? But he did have a musical instrument hanging on the wall, and we don't think he's musical. What instrument does he have hanging on the wall? Well, he
Oh.
plays the keyboards. We know that he has a sound.
Yes, yes, he
It's
does.
not.
He
It's
has
not a
a
keyboard. It's another instrument just hanging on the wall. It's a
and I
tough one.
comforter because it makes me think of a kid's comforter.
It looked like a kid's bedroom to me. I got to be honest.
It's bedroom. It really does.
Yeah.
And like obvious, my obvious. I have no idea, but my knee jerk reaction is a guitar. But that's because of who the people
Right.
live in my house.
Yeah.
Um,
No, he has a violin on his wall,
a
which is
violin.
really bizarre. I don't know why he has a violin.
He has very eclectic taste. A
He
random
does.
cycling magazine, a
Exactly.
violin.
Maybe they're still
Was
trying
there
to
a
figure
bow?
out. No bow, just a violin mounted on the wall, I think to the side and above his bed.
Huh.
Yeah, very weird.
Weird.
Right, very weird.
Okay.
Do you have another one for me?
I do.
Awesome.
Okay, so the horrible lady. That
Yes.
would be how she is like credited for this episode.
Okay.
The horrible lady. The horrible lady in the laundromat.
Yes.
She says, well, she shares something kind of personal. What was her waist size? What did it used to be?
Oh, I can picture the scene because it's where she says you lose stuff or you lose things.
Mhm.
Well, not going to say 3 in honor of Steve because we're going with inches here, I'm sure. So I'm trying to replay in my head 24.
You are correct.
Yes.
Nice
All
job,
right. I was going
Al.
between that and 26, trying to play it back. All right. That is on a high note. That's awesome. Let's see. What type of car does Rachel's dad offer to buy her if she moves back home?
Oh, it's a Mercedes convertible.
It is indeed. I thought you might get that one. That's
Yes. Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you for
Yes.
asking a question I could get.
Well,
Do
these
you
were
know
fun. Yeah.
do you know what though? In the last episode that we did, you asked me about the score on the screen
Oh, yes, I
for
did.
the thing, and it was 1 to 1.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was on IMDb, and
Hmm.
that's the picture for that episode.
Really?
It is. It's the scoreboard with 1 to 1. And I said, oh my gosh, why didn't I go to
Isn't that
IMDb?
funny? Because that's probably not even footage that the Friends production whatever filmed. Like they
Yeah,
probably got that from ESPN or something.
something.
Isn't that
Yeah,
funny?
I have no idea, like, if, because I don't even remember that scene whenever that was shown. But
Right.
that's so funny. If you Google that episode and pull it up on IMDb, it's right there.
All right.
The
I'm gonna
first
have to do
picture.
that afterwards just to see it.
Yeah. Just
Well,
just cuz. That's
I've
fun.
I've got two other questions, but they're kind of lame. I think we're out of
That's all
questions.
right. Lame, lame, lame,
Lame it is.
lame.
All right, we've already established that Chandler orders or multiple espressos. What does he order for Janice?
A latte.
He does indeed. He
Mhm.
does indeed. And the final question I've got is nice and a simple question. What is the name of the laundromat?
Suds and something?
It
I
is
don't.
Laundorama.
Oh.
They say that and then it's on the sign outside. But
Oh.
Laundorama.
I guess I wasn't paying that.
Oh, that's
Oh
quite all right.
no. Get it
Laundorama.
together,
Come on.
Deanne. Come
That's
on.
right. We'll get this. Well, we'll go from there though into the episode. I've been looking forward to this one for multiple reasons. But they start off in Central Park and they're having some interesting conversations. Yeah,
Always.
always.
I love these like bite-sized little conversations that they have during the first season,
Yeah.
and
I,
to start it because
I
it's
always feel it's just establishing characters and senses of humor and all of that sort of stuff.
yes, absolutely.
It did get me thinking though, and keeping this PG, is there anything jealous that your husband can do that you can't?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, all this stuff he knows about like cars and tools and
Right.
blah 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 and like and then I don't know, it made me laugh whenever Phoebe was like they could just do mean things and not care.
Right.
But that's not my husband at all. He
Of
doesn't do
course.
mean things and
No.
not care. But he doesn't worry like I worry about
Right.
everything.
Right. Just life.
And
Right.
I feel like that could be generalized to gender sometimes,
I think so. Kate and I certainly worry about different things or in different ways. So
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
probably people are probably paid a lot of money somewhere to study that and come up with conclusions. So yeah, I can relate to that.
What about you, Al? Are you jealous of anything that Kate can do?
So the thing when I thought of this is sprung to mind. We have different kitchen strengths.
Uh-huh.
Like there's certain things I can cook or bake or whatever really well, and they're like my staples. But then there's things that she will make that it doesn't matter how much I try. I could do the same thing, I swear, and it just doesn't come out with whatever special touch it is that she's put on it. Whatever magic
It's
she
a
has sprinkled.
love.
Exactly, it's made with love. And as much as I love, apparently I don't love enough in certain dishes or certain things because she's very good at what we call doctoring it up. Like when she makes chili or soup, she starts loading it up with just the right amount of just the right things. And whatever else I can do, I can cook, I can bake. I can't quite get that right. So that's a skill she has. I wish I had.
Nice.
Well, let's see. We go from there. Chandler's all excited about Saturday night, and he's going to end up breaking up. Well, the plan is to break up with Janice, and Phoebe offers
Mm.
to do the same. I find it very interesting that he's on a hunger strike because that seems to be something that she would be into, to be honest.
Yeah, but he's not any fun when he's hungry.
Yeah. Who
He
is?
wasn't
Who
into it
is?
right
Yeah.
then.
Let's
Yeah, I
see.
thought that was so funny.
Yeah, it's just like kind of dropped in there. It was nicely done. Yeah, if I was
Mhm,
on a
mhm.
hunger strike, I think I'd be in a pretty terrible mood, to be honest.
Oh,
Yeah,
if I don't remember to eat at work, I am a grump. I am a
right.
grump, and it's like, "Have you had lunch?" It's
And
like,
the
"Oh,
answer's
no, let me go
probably
eat
no.
something."
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds familiar. Well, good old Angela
Hangry.
walks in, angry. Yeah, get very angry. She walks in, and poor old Joey is. He obviously has some regrets when Angela comes in, and she's now dating Bob.
Oh,
But
Bob.
but they're definitely flirting with each other. There's some
Yes.
attraction still there, and um, Joey thinks pretty quickly on his feet that he'll bring his girlfriend Monica. And let's see, I'm just kind of thinking through that scene, and then yeah, Ross is going to join Rachel doing laundry. I think that's quite a sweet scene. I think Rachel's quite happy that he's joining them to do laundry with this fictitious rat problem.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I don't think at first she really cared, right? Because she's
Right,
like, "Didn't you like, don't you have one in your building?" And then he
right.
starts coming up with that ridiculous rat
Yeah, come out
problem.
all fluffy. Yeah.
Fluffy.
There's just something about her look at the end of the conversation. I think she knows he's full of nonsense, but he just wants to spend time with her.
Oh, yeah.
I think she's definitely aware of this.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
let's see. We move from there into the girls' apartment. Joey manages to convince Mona to go on this double date with Angela and her brother. I noticed something that I think I don't know if it's a continuity error, but it's something that couldn't happen in the world of the show. I don't know if you caught this too, but they look out the window and they say, "Oh, ugly naked guy is putting like
L
tile down in his
laying
kitchen,"
laying kitchen tile, yeah.
but they can't see his kitchen because we know when Ross lives there, the kitchen is out the back of the set. You can only see him through the living room window.
Okay, hang on.
Now, it's just occurred to me maybe there's another window round, to the left.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
because the
must
window
be.
that they see in
Yeah.
is over there because I'm thinking about, like, whenever Emma's crying and then they come in and then the window is here on that wall
Ah,
over
right.
there, and so there's a wall here. Oh, and then the kitchen's on the other side because later whenever he goes to go get margaritas, whenever he's fine,
Yes,
I'm
that's yes,
fine,
he's
everything's
fine.
fine.
That's right.
We know that the kitchen is back that way.
For our viewers
So
who
it's
are
possible if there's more than one window.
there must be. And for those of you who are listening, which is all of you, Deanne's doing beautiful hand movements showing me exactly the layout.
Not thinking about
I do
audio.
that all the time. I've got my hands going, so it's just wonderful to see you do it too. You're absolutely right. When he goes to get margaritas and you're in the kitchen, there must be a window there. Because I just thought that was
Provided
odd.
yes. Yeah, well, okay, so then thinking about that, there has to be a window because they're watching him with his thigh master, and he would be doing his thigh
Yes.
master in the kitchen, and so there's
Yes.
gotta be 2
Two
windows.
windows. And
Yes.
you'd want some light at that part of the apartment anyway, I think. So that now
Yes.
that we're talking through it, which is what this podcast is all about, that kind of makes sense to me. That
Yeah,
there'd be
I
a
think
second
so.
window in the kitchen.
So now whenever Ross moves in, we're gonna think back to this conversation and see
Yes.
if that all checks out. Yep.
Yes, we'll look into that.
Yes. Okay,
Let's
fun.
see. Yeah, no, you're good. So they go from there, and then we actually jump over to Ross's apartment, which of course is not across the street at this point. And they're just, Chandler's convincing Ross that this is a date. This isn't just laundry; it's a date. Does he want his underwear to be
And
dirty? Which is
oh
just
gosh.
fantastic,
And then if she doesn't know it's a date, is it still a date?
right?
And the answer is yes. What?
Yeah, it's so
Crazy
bizarre.
pants? They're
Yeah,
crazy. This is not a date, but okay.
I do feel like we see all of or some of Chandler's trauma coming out. Like
Right.
he's such damaged goods at this point. I feel like between Janice and maybe his parents and just life, um,
Yeah.
between the dirty underwear and what's wrong with my snuggles? Good old Ross and his.
No, oh, he's like, "I'm a sensitive, warm kind of guy
That's
with
right.
a little cute teddy bear." I'll get something else.
Yeah, I guess that does kind of track for this teenage boy's bedroom he's got going on with like just so many toys and things, the dinosaur toys,
Yes.
just around his bedroom. It's just looked a little odd to me. I don't know. Maybe he's embracing bachelorhood and Carol didn't like them. I don't know.
Oh,
It
I'm
just struck me
sure
as odd.
not.
Yeah,
I am sure not. Because
yeah,
later, after Ben's older and you're in Carol and Susan's apartment,
yeah.
like, it is immaculate.
It is
And
done
it's
up. Yes.
yeah, and they have a kid that lives there.
Right. And it's
And so
still fantastic.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
no.
So yeah, he's decided he's gonna pick up, something a little more manly, some manly laundry detergent. But come to think of it, Snuggles to me, yeah, that's fabric softener, right? And then he goes and buys detergent instead. That's two different things.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't occur to me. Now again, just thinking this through as we're talking. Yeah, it's two different things. So maybe he just ditched the Snuggles and he had that detergent. I don't know.
No, well, he said he was gonna
Yeah,
stop and buy some what's it?
yeah.
Uber.
Uberweiss.
Yes.
Yes, that's a great name. It's so good.
Yes,
Well,
it
let's
makes
see.
me think of that old, Saturday Night Live skit where they were the bodybuilders, Hans and Franz.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. I wasn't sure if you
Yes.
knew what I was gonna be talking about or not, but, and the
I've only ever seen the famous clips of Saturday. I've never seen the show. I've never
Oh,
watched it. I've just seen there's just some clips that live in infamy and are part of like cultural,
yeah.
whatever. And I've seen those on YouTube, but I feel like
Oh.
it needs to be watched.
Yes, it really, really does. I am
Yeah.
so old, it's amazing because I watched those first run and they were hilarious and
Well, I'm right behind you, but I didn't live here, so
oh,
that was the
that's true
big.
too.
But Kate's a big fan. Kate's a big fan of it, and she talks about sweater weather and things all the
Oh,
time that come from
yes.
that, and just she'll
Oh,
throw out
yeah.
random skits. Well, let's see. We go from there. We very briefly segue over to where Monica and Joey kind of see Bob, and Monica thinks he's a good looking guy.
Yeah, because she is
Yeah,
so mad. She
right.
whenever she realizes you don't know him, all you know he's got a job.
It's so well done. But
Yes.
we jump from there really quickly back to Central Park, where Chandler is just having an almighty internal meltdown. Um, and then Janice comes in, and we'll talk a little bit more about Janice at the end because I love Janice.
Janice
I
is one of my favorite side characters of the
Yes,
entire series.
I've
Like,
done some
she's
deep
awesome.
diving on her, and at the end when we kind of talk about characters, we'll dive into that bit. But everything I see about, I already love the character, but
Uh-huh.
everything I heard Maggie Wheeler talking about, watch the videos today, just makes you love this character even more.
Oh, I can't
Yes.
wait. I can't wait.
But what I do want to talk to you about is because I gained some knowledge today. I've never watched Rocky and Bullwinkle. I know the cartoon characters. I would recognize them because I've seen them on shirts and I know the name.
Rocky and yeah.
I was astonished to see it started. The first run was from 1959 to
Mhm.
1964. I thought this was like a 90s cartoon, like
Nope.
a Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon or whatever it is. I thought that was no,
Really?
I didn't realize. And then it seems like it just dotted around. That there was the odd runs in the 70s and the 80s, and then the odd movie that tanked in the 90s.
Yep.
It kind of never died, but really it was in the late 50s into the 60s was the heyday
Mhm.
for Rocky and Bullwinkle. I had no idea. Now,
Yeah,
did you
that's
watch it? Have you watched it like
yeah.
reruns and yeah,
Oh, yeah. And the thing is because whenever I was a kid, my parents had watched it as a kid.
right,
And so they liked it, and then whenever, like, the movie came out and everything,
right.
like, we saw it. It was a thing, and I wondered if you would know what Rocky and Bullwinkle were, but, like and that's funny that you bring that up because I was thinking about that today, and in my brain, I was talking like Rocky and Bullwinkle, and now I wanted to do an impersonation, and I can't.
Right.
I can't bring it up. Like, I can't do it now,
I
but,
think I've recognized the moose. I don't know which is
Eh,
Rocky,
yeah.
right? Is that which one's the moose?
Uh-huh.
I'd
Yeah.
recognize him. I don't know
No.
if is that Bullwinkle.
Bullwinkle is
Okay,
right?
I
Yes,
don't,
and
I'm not
Rocky
sure.
is the little one.
I don't
Uh-huh.
think I'd recognize Rocky then. Like if I just had a page full of cartoon characters, I don't know if I'd recognize him. But the moose, I can picture him. So I just
Yeah.
love that she got him these socks.
And
Like,
okay, but
yeah,
did you watch, like, an actual episode with them so you heard their voices?
I haven't yet because I just deep dived into this today and I came home
Oh,
from work
okay.
and
Yeah,
do I
because
need to do this?
yeah, just because it's a very nasally weird voice and it's just worth hearing. And
So
then
I became a dual citizen over the summer of the UK and the US, and I
mhm.
honestly think instead of asking questions like who was the 14th president and what's the 18th Amendment, they should have you do things like this. Like you should watch Rocky and Bullwinkle and write a three-page essay on it. Like immerse yourself in that kind of culture. I think it
Well, and
means
then,
more
like,
than
Gumby and all
right.
of those yeah, Gumby and
Yeah,
Pokey and yeah.
you got to know
Mhm.
these things. I think they should all be part of it. But that's a sidetrack. Now, here's a fun fact for you. Do you
Ooh,
know what company owns the rights to the image rights and all of it to Rocky and Bullwinkle?
I have no clue
Right.
at
You
all.
and I could give you 1,000 guesses. It's General Mills, the cereal company. They when the cartoon was in initial production, they were the main sponsor and they ended up negotiating for the rights for it, which and apparently Rocky and Bullwinkle, I forget the name of the town, but it's set in Minnesota, which is where
Something
General
falls.
Mills. Yes, something falls, and that's where General Mills are headquartered. They're headquartered in,
Huh.
Minneapolis or somewhere. But that's why it's there because General Mills sponsored the show from the get go.
Huh.
Yeah,
How
so
weird.
to this day they own the rights to it, all the merchandising rights.
That's
Which,
interesting.
yeah, who knew? I certainly didn't know.
No, I
Yeah,
don't know why anybody would know that, but now we do, so
now we
hey.
do. Some great knowledge to drop into a conversation. Yeah. Well, like I said, stop me if you've got things to jump in, but we kind of go over to the laundromat now, where the lady moves Rachel's basket. She's just this mean, grumpy, aggressive kind of lady. And she says, "There's no suds, no suds, no save." And
That's
Ross,
the rule.
that's the
The
rule.
rule.
And contrary to what we've talked about in the past with Ross being a bit of a sad sack, I think he shines a bit here. He comes in and he's like, "No, that's not the rule," and he gets the machine back for Rachel. What do you
Yeah.
see going on here?
Yes, I liked it. I was like, "Okay, that was nice of him," but then at the same time, I'm like, "Come on, Rachel. Like, come on."
Right.
But I get it. I mean, this is literally the first time she's ever done her own laundry, and she's in a weird place, and, it's all new. And so, yeah, I mean, I still don't like Ross, but I did like that. I did like how and I also like as the episode goes on, how he just kind of supports her to where at the end Rachel's able to
Yes.
stand up for herself.
It almost seems to me like she's in a foreign country. I mean, she's from Long Island, which is geographically, I don't know, 20 miles from the village where
Mhm.
she is. But it is a different world. It's busy, it's crowded. You're at the laundromat. I'm sure she's never been in a laundromat before.
Mm-mm.
Um, you're dealing with a different kind of people, different culture of people. New York City, it's fast paced, it's this, it's that. So it probably does feel quite foreign to her, even though, of course, it's not. So it probably is a bit scary. Like I've got definitely a good degree of sympathy for Rachel in this kind of situation.
Mhm. Yes. So that
Ross
was
breaks out his Uber Vice. Um, I noticed that the name obviously is German, which it means ultra
Mhm.
white. I think I looked up, but all the other language on the box is in English, which I didn't know if that was odd or not. If it should all be in German or if it's just a German name. But again, I'm overthinking it. But just thought that was an interesting thing.
That's
Let's see,
funny.
what else did you notice in there?
Um
Do you have any notes
well,
there?
whenever Rachel made the comment, I can't even send back soup. I think
Right.
it really does kind of show where she's at, like,
Yeah.
as an adult,
Yeah,
like,
and you're right.
and
And jumping
and
forward, she becomes so strong and independent, and this, that, and the other. She does
yes,
obviously
yeah,
change a lot. Well,
yeah,
let's see. Go ahead.
No, 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 I
Uh,
didn't have anything else
uh.
about that. I didn't write much about that scene,
Yeah,
and it
it's
was
funny because it's to me it's quite a pivotal scene, but there's not much to kind of to take away from it. We go back over to the restaurant where Monica kind of figures out that Bob is Angela's brother.
oh,
Let's
dang.
see,
Hey,
mhm.
I've got a question, and I should have asked it back at Bamboozled, but
No, you're good.
I wrote, "All right, where are Angela and Bob from? Or where did they grow up?" Did you write it down?
Okay, I did not. He's from somewhere in Ohio. Is that right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with. Does he say the city?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I'm gonna go with. If it's not Toledo, it's gonna be one of the C's. So we're gonna go with Cleveland.
Right.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, that was and you'd be one of the three: Cincinnati,
Uh-huh.
Columbus, or Cleveland. All right, and then she is, if I remember rightly, she's from somewhere closer.
Uh-huh.
So I'm just going to guess somewhere else in New York and go with Albany.
Brooklyn Heights.
Oh, Brooklyn Heights. Okay, so
Yeah. I don't know where that is though, but
that's
I
it's a
it sounds like a fancy part of Brooklyn, right?
it is. It's exactly what it is. It's with big tall buildings. I think in Brooklyn. I think.
Okay. Well, there
Yeah.
you go. So that's
Very
fun.
nice. That's a good one though. Yeah, I didn't I vaguely remember that, but that's a great question. Um, but we when they're in the bathroom, let's see, and
Oh,
it's
uh, wait.
aha, go for it.
Yes. Okay. And did you get the continuity error there?
With Monica saying about Ross's virginity. Yes,
Mhm.
indeed. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm like, "No, no. We spent a
No.
lot of time talking about how weird it was that she did know."
Yeah, this is not weird, but it's a continuity error. You shouldn't know these things.
Yes,
So that
yes.
was so funny. And we will. Speaking of continuity, we'll get to a bit in a minute. 'Cause if I jump ahead, I'll lose place. Where we
Sorry.
kind of no. You're fine. We'll realize that this was we don't know what order these things were filmed in because there's another sort of continuity error coming up. But I do love it when Monica realizes what's going on here and just how weird it all is.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
God, so funny. Well, let's see. So then we end up going back to Central Park. We're flipping between these three scenes, really: the restaurant, coffee house, and the laundromat. And Phoebe, helps Chandler with how to break up with Janice. And then, I just love Chandler. I love the way he's just on this mental breakdown edge. Says they shouldn't see each other, and I believe Janice just kind of starts to cry and make these funny sounds, and
Mhm.
it's just a train wreck. It's fantastic.
Yes. And then he's like and she's like, "It's not about me, it's about you and your fear of commitment." And then
Right?
he's like, "I don't have a fear of commitment." And then "Really?"
Really?
Oh.
I got thinking today, I've seen this episode, goodness knows how many times, but it occurred to me that when Chandler says he's going to break up with her, they all know who she is. So
Yeah.
I've assumed they've been out at least a couple of times. And then I was like, I wonder what the backstory is there. Like, how
Uh-huh.
long had they been going out? How did they meet? Maybe they've just been out once or twice and he's mentioned her, but maybe there's more to it and we'll never know. But I thought it's kind of fun to think what that backstory could be.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I went back. That was the thing. Like Joseph and I were talking, and I was like, I I think this is the first episode she was in.
Yes.
And so we went back and and I watched the 2 episodes that you did with Steve.
Hmm.
And I was like, she's not in any of the other episodes. It just here's this random
Yeah.
relationship that he has going on, and he had talked about being alone and all of these things. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I where did this come from and how long have they been dating? And because we didn't know anything about Tony, but really over the series that doesn't really change with Phoebe. Like she'll randomly be dating somebody,
Right. Right. Just people come and
Eh,
go. But yeah,
yeah.
like you said, Chandler at the beginning is like, yeah, he's alone on a Saturday night and things, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's an
So
interesting one.
mhm.
Now we hop back over to the laundromat, and poor old Rachel, everything's pink coming out of her machine.
Oh.
And I wanted to ask you if you've ever had a laundry faux pas.
Oh my gosh, I still have laundry
You
faux
saw-
pas on the regular. Joseph has fired me from doing his laundry because
right?
I have managed to shrink. so many of his shirts.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's fine. I couldn't even tell you how many sticks of lipstick or nail polish or markers that I've washed and managed to end up with dots on everything.
I'll remind
It's
listeners now that
terrible.
DeeAnn is a teacher, which is exactly where all this
Yes.
comes from.
Yeah, we
Yes.
used to play after I would get home whenever the years I would teach kindergarten.
Hmm.
We would play a game every night. Well, guess what's in my pockets?
Right.
And then it's like all these random, like there's some manipulatives and a candy and just stuff.
I used to
And
kind of
some
laugh
of
at
those things
kindergarten
are good.
teachers that had
The aprons.
the aprons. You
Yes,
think that's a little excessive, but no, it's
but
smart,
it's
it's clever.
not.
Everything is kept in that one place, and you can just take it off at the end of the day. Very
Yeah.
smart indeed. Yeah.
Yes, it is. And I lived that apron life for just a little bit. But then I would lose the apron or I'd take it off and set it down somewhere and then in my pockets just ended up being
Right.
it. That's it for me. But yeah, have you
Yeah.
ever done anything like that?
Not really. The only thing I can think of, and it was an old washing machine we had. I, somehow I got bleach over everything. I think I put bleach accidentally in the fabric softener bit, and then threw like
Oh,
jeans in or something.
oh no.
Yeah, that's the only one that really jumps out at me. We've just had to replace both our washer and our dryer in the last couple of months because they sounded like an aeroplane taking off. The washer did, it was horrific, and the dryer was squeaking. So we're like, all right, we'll just do this quickly. So
Oh man,
thankfully they seem fairly foolproof, but we
nice.
might put that to the test.
That's so
Yeah.
funny though, because like after washers start getting old, they'll like I used to have one that like I would start a load and then I would I see you back there. Shh. Sorry.
You're
That's
quite all right.
um but I would run the load and then by the time that it was all done and I come in like the washer had moved 6 inches because it
Yes.
was jiggling itself and walking around.
Yeah, our old one, if you put one extra towel in there, that was it. It was going across. It was going for a walk. It was gone.
It'll show you.
That's right. Well, we go from there back to the restaurant where Monica truly sees that Bob, she's got her hand in his shirt. But this is where she is talking about the underdog balloon that gets away.
Okay, I could not figure out what she was talking about.
Well, the only reason I heard it, and was like, she's talking about, I think it's episode 9, the one where Underdog gets away. It's the Macy's Day Parade and the balloon gets loose. And we don't see it, but everybody runs out to go look at it. I don't quite remember
Oh,
all the details because I haven't watched it in a while. But
yeah.
is that's too much of a coincidence to be talking about an underdog balloon getting away. So I assume they filmed these in a different order,
In different
something
orders.
like that. Um,
Interesting.
which is why maybe there's the Ross virginity continuity error, but maybe it was meant to be really much farther apart. I don't know. I don't know about that, but that balloon jumped out at me.
Yeah, because I was like, what
Yeah,
on earth is she talking about? With the head going down and
yeah,
going down the street. And I was like, what is she
yeah. We'll
talking
kind
about?
of. I think we'll try and remember to revisit this scene in a
Yeah,
month's time or whenever we do that episode 9, I think.
I love it.
Um, yeah, but they very quickly realize, or Monica does, what's going on here, and seems on board with trying to break him up after a little bit of being taken aback.
Yes.
Um, but let's see, we hop back over to Central Park where we start getting the 11 espressos, 10 plus Phoebes, and he
Yes.
whacks Janice in the eye. He's this poor guy. He's completely melted
It's
down
the
at this
worst
point.
breakup
Ever.
ever.
And then I do love that moment of Chandler's, I can't remember word for word what he says, but we should always do this together. We should
Yeah,
always
we
break
should
up
always
together.
break up together.
It's a
Uh-huh.
beautiful moment. Like he's just at this point at his lowest low. Yeah, it's just beautifully done. But
Yes.
and we see him at perhaps his lowest in the episode, and then we go back to the laundromat and see Rachel maybe at her highest when she is taking no nonsense from the mean lady.
Yes. And then She kisses
Yes,
Ross.
she kisses
Dun
Ross.
dun dun.
Now I did notice that the mean lady, and it kind of, you can't really see it, but she's
The
definitely
horrible lady.
the
The
horrible
horrible
lady.
lady.
That's right. She's holding the cart with her foot when Rachel climbs in it, which I assume so Jennifer
It wouldn't
Aniston could
roll
climb
right.
in; it wouldn't fly off. Um,
Yeah.
the the most, to me, the most iconic moment of this entire episode is right after the kiss, when Ross
Yes.
walks into the machine door.
I
How
just
he
so
does that is
sad.
just such brilliant. Like, how you do that?
And how many
Yeah,
times over the years have I seen that episode and I
yeah,
still laughed? I still laughed at that.
absolutely, and you know
Whenever
it's
he
coming,
stands up and he's all straight and then he just turns around. Ugh.
and it, yeah, how, I mean, he doesn't look like he's prepping for it at all.
No.
Like, that must be such a skill to be able to
Oh,
do that, you know? Like, it's just brilliant.
yes.
Just brilliant. Well, good for them.
Absolutely.
Their first kiss, I think, of any sort. Um, I might be wrong in that. I'm trying
Yes.
to think that might be it. But let's see.
Yeah.
We go from there. We end up hopping back over to the coffee house, which I'm a little confused about because Monica and Joey say that they successfully broke up the couple, but then what are they doing in the coffee house? Because it's clearly the same night, because Rachel has the bag of ice on Ross's head. So I don't know if
Right.
I missed something, but if you broke them up, I don't know. It just seems weird that then Joey and Joey and Monica are together.
Yeah. Well, maybe they
Yeah,
all went their separate ways and then
that's
I
true.
mean they would have you know what I mean? Because they all could have left together.
Right.
Or I mean, and then came
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. I'm probably overthinking that bit. But
Yeah.
I was just trying
So
again. I'm
I like
trying to.
to think that they broke them up.
Yeah, they
I like
definitely
to
did.
think that.
Monica's got herself another guy. Joey's back with the woman he wanted, for at least
Yes.
temporarily. And then the whole episode kind of ends with Chandler running around outside. I'm
I'm
free. I'm
free.
free. It's just totally unhinged behavior, but that's what we expect from him in this episode.
Yes.
It just ends on a funny note.
Well, and I like how it kind of, I don't know, solidified some relationships because you always think like Chandler and Joey, Monica and Rachel, and then and then Ross is kind of over here in but they're all like connected, but like Chandler and Phoebe, you don't necessarily think of them being friends, but they did
Right.
this together.
I
And
do
then
love that. Yeah.
Joey and Monica, I mean, we know later that they've got some interesting history, but the fact that they did that together, it was cute too. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I love it when they do kind of mix up the kind of normal dynamics a bit.
Yeah,
I think that's
exactly.
a really sweet thing. But I said to you earlier, I wanted to talk to you a bit about Janice, because I ended up on my lunch break today watching
Yes.
some interviews with Maggie Wheeler, because to me, she's like the seventh friend, because she
Yes.
goes from here all the way to the end. She is, I double check this, she is in every season.
Yes.
Sometimes only an episode or maybe two, but she goes all the way from the beginning to the end. So to me, she is the seventh friend. Um, some people reading some comments and things, and some old posts, find her annoying. I just think she's brilliant. I love her character, but I didn't realize that Maggie Wheeler, she auditioned for the role of Monica, and didn't get
Oh.
it. They didn't feel she was right for Monica, but they liked her energy. They liked what she brought, so they were just going to write her in for this one episode. But they thought that the dynamic between her and Matthew Perry was so good, they decided to bring her back. But she was meant to be one and done. Like, this was going to be it. Um,
Wow, good
but
for her.
right, she also auditioned to be Deborah on Everybody Loves Raymond, Ray's wife.
Oh, the wife.
And again, the same thing happened there. They didn't feel the energy was right, the dynamics, but they loved her, so she came back as a guest character on several episodes of
Ah,
Everybody Loves Raymond, which I just love. Like, it's a lovely story. That you're not right for the role, but we love what you bring to the table, and that happened on both
yeah.
Friends and Raymond. Um, but I watched an interview with her. She was at some Friends fan fest in London a couple of years ago, and she was talking about that she had seen Matthew Perry, some of his behind the scenes work, and she knew that she was just not going to be able to stop laughing, because she just found his comedic timing hilarious. So in the first rehearsal, she came up with that laugh to kind of mask her own laugh. When he did something funny, it gave her something to do comedically that would
Uh-huh.
cover up her breaking. So she developed this crazy laugh,
Oh, how
and it
cool.
just stuck. The producer said, "That's
Yeah, it did.
brilliant. That's a great characteristic to have. Keep that in the character. In her tool belt."
Oh,
But
how
that was a
funny.
defense mechanism because of Matthew Perry being so funny. Um, it gave her something to, which I thought was just brilliant. And she ended up, she if you remember, she's pregnant later on.
Yes.
She is really pregnant at that point, so they wanted her back in, so they had to write that into the story. Um, which I just all this stuff I think is just brilliant. And she seems like a really wonderful person watching the interviews with her. And of course, her voice is totally different.
Uh-huh.
But watching her switch back and forth, man, it just made me smile. I just think she brings so much to the show.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
she
deep
is.
dived into her a bit, and then you looked into the horrible lady.
I did. The horrible
Yeah,
lady.
I know nothing about
Camille
her.
Saviola is her
Right,
name. Um, and she is another one, like the guy that was the pizza guy, where you
right,
might see her because I told you she looked familiar to me, but she's been like little side characters on all kinds of things, Star Trek, and then she was on Younger, like most recently.
right.
She passed in 2021,
Okay,
but she was on Saving Grace, Judging Amy, just First Monday, but I don't know what that was.
right,
Um, but a whole bunch, like Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, and
right.
but real small little roles. But she over 500 different things that she's
Wow.
done or
Yeah, she
she
has
had
a very
done.
distinctive look. I mean, there was no
Yeah.
mistaking that. Everyone who's watched Friends, even though she was just in one episode and a few scenes, knows that lady. I
Uh
think. I
huh.
think the hat and her attitude, all of that stuff.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, that's really interesting. Though she's been in all these other things.
Yes, and that's it's fascinating to me. But she's from New York up there, and
Right,
she went to school and ended up dropping out of film school. And
right.
yeah, but she was in a rock band in the 70s though.
Really
She
interesting
was the
stories,
lead
I'm
singer
sure.
of that. Um, and then they did that for a little bit, and they were like a disco rock band. And then
Right.
she did theatrical productions, and then she went to TV
That's
and
so
did some
interesting.
movies.
I'll need to see
She
if I
did a
can see
lot.
her in some stuff.
Yeah, because it
That's
was
awesome.
just a bunch of little things, and then she did some different Woody Allen movies, but one of the movies, and she had a fairly significant role, but they ended up cutting everything that she was in that
Wow.
movie. So, but I think she was in like 3 or 4, and so one of them she's actually not in.
Right, because it got cut.
Yeah. So,
Interesting. Yeah, she's
mm,
just such an iconic character for being in just one episode.
yes,
Find it
mean
very
old lady.
interesting. Well, kind of on that note, moving over to my Gunther Central part, my character of the week, I really struggled between, for me, it was Chandler or Ross, because I love Chandler's epic meltdown over the course of about 3 or 4 scenes. But I
Uh-huh.
felt this week, I'm going to show Ross a bit of love, his physical comedy for walking into that dryer door, and the way he takes care of Rachel, but he also stands back, like you spoke about, and kind of watches Rachel handle her own business in the end. He's there if she needs him, but he's not mansplaining or taking over. He
Yeah.
helped her when she needed it, but then he empowered her by standing back and letting her handle her business and congratulating her on being a new woman. So for that, for me, showing Ross a little love this week. He's my character.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna pick Chandler then
Excellent.
because he's hilarious. He let Phoebe do his dirty work after he tried for a really long time and just didn't do it. Yeah, we didn't even talk about Phoebe and how
We didn't.
amazing she was at breaking up with people.
Yeah, what skill? What skill to
Just
have?
a hug and,
Yeah,
Janice, who was looking at having a meltdown and everything, ends up just putting her
just
hand and and then
she
she
has an
leaves.
aura or an energy or something.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, but Chandler, yeah, from being like woohoo and up and up and up, and then to just a caffeinated
Yeah.
dumpster fire running up and down the street.
Well,
Like,
yeah, it's so brilliantly done. Yeah, definitely
yes.
my second pick.
God, he is,
Uh,
yeah, he is just one funny guy, like
he
from
is
the beginning to the end.
absolutely. I mean, what a talent! What a talent he was. And then
Mhm.
we're moving on. We're very excited. We got our first piece of listener mail from a lady called Missy C.
Oh,
She
Missy C!
Missy C. Big clap
Yay!
for Missy. So she
Yay!
brought it. Now she wrote this after we'd recorded a couple of other episodes. So this is from a few episodes ago. But she was talking about the whole Carol being pregnant timeline that we deep dived into in that episode. The
Oh,
one
okay.
with the sonogram at the end. She
Oh,
said
yeah, yeah, yeah.
she said that what we talked about was an interesting theory about the whole manipulation. She'd never thought of that, but she tends to take TV characters just at face value, so she didn't know she could picture Carol being that manipulative. And she tends to go with the willing, she calls it the willing suspense of disbelief mindset when she looks
Oh,
back at early episodes of the sitcoms. Because, of course, 30 years on, they didn't know that this kind of discussion over a podcast, having streamed a show, that was inconceivable. So this
right.
isn't something that people were thinking about. And then Missy also went
What
on.
does wait, wait, wait. What
Yeah,
does
sorry.
Missy see in her smart self? What's she call that? Suspension
She
of
called it, and I quote, the willing suspension of disbelief, which is a beautiful phrase.
that is
Just
very
choosing to kind of just take it for what it is. Willing suspension of disbelief.
okay.
We're we're
I
learning
love
something
that.
from Missy here.
I love that.
Um,
Way to go, Missy
and then
C.
she also brought up that she remembers two different actresses playing Mindy, which we'll really get to when we see Mindy in future
Yes.
episodes. The first is Jennifer Grey of Dirty Dancing fame. I didn't realize this. Missy said that so. You remember you loved the insults that Rachel throws at the end of that episode about
Yeah,
Barry's
about the
hairline and
no.
her nose.
Yes.
I think we both knew that or remembered that Rachel had had a nose job. That comes up at some point.
Yes.
I didn't know that Jennifer Grey herself had had a nose job
Oh,
before
yeah.
the. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. She looks like a totally different human from whenever she was in Dirty Dancing to later.
So again, is this
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing Mindy hadn't been cast at this point, but maybe she had. Is that a coincidence? They hadn't talked about any nose job at that point. But that was something that Missy noticed and wanted to bring up. So I promised her
That's
when.
so way to go,
Yeah,
Missy.
Missy's our new favorite. She's awesome.
I'm
Um, so I told her that when we see Mindy for the first time, this is something we'll certainly dive into a little bit. Jennifer Grey and her history and why she only appeared once, because I read about that today. But we'll save it for when we actually meet her, which would be awesome.
yes.
Um, but let's think on that kind of note. Have you got any final thoughts about this episode?
It's a good one. It's a really, really good one. And I like how it's starting to, it kind of gave us a pretty good picture of the growth that we're going to see in Rachel over the next 10 seasons.
Yeah, I do
But
feel that that's definitely the trend right now, seeing her grow a little every show.
yeah, but really, I guess recognizing there's a lot more to her than just being spoiled. Like thinking about like whenever you're meeting somebody, there's always a lot more under the surface, and then what opportunities have you been provided before? And so for her, she had not been even provided the opportunity to learn how to do laundry, and she was
Right.
all on it and ready to go. And so I'm excited about really talking about her growth and her changes over the next little bit. But I think that it this particular episode showed us a lot about that piece of Rachel.
Yeah, she definitely could have been a character of the week as well. Now that we're talking about it, she really does. She took on a big challenge and a scary situation. She took it on and she won. So good for Rachel. I love seeing this growth too. But as this podcast continues to grow, we're going to keep hoping to add more sections. We've got some ideas, but we do have our first piece of listener mail, so we'd love to see that coming in. Remember, looking for us on Instagram is going to be the main way to do that at the Purple Door Podcast. We'd love for you to get in touch, and we'd love to start building a small community around this pod and have all of you guys involved. On that note, DeeAnn, any final words?
Uh, Thanks for the fan mail, Miss C, and yay!
Yeah, that's
This is
about
so
it.
fun. I'm
So
excited.
we're going to look forward to next week's episode, which is the one with the butt. And our good friend of the pod, Steve, has already sent me some really interesting trivia about that I'm looking forward to share with you
Oh,
guys
fun.
when we record next. So on that note, thank you all for listening to the Purple Door Podcast.